The self-improvement trap. So if you've clicked on this video, you're probably into self-improvement. You're probably into, you know, grinding, grafting, routine, systems, all this stuff. And I quite literally was the same as you. I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I'd work all day and go to sleep at 9 p.m. And if I can add the clips in, I don't know, like I just want to get the videos out there, so I'm not going to over edit it or anything like that. But if I can add pictures in, you're going to quite literally see what my life was like, what I was living like. And I thought to myself, you know, the self-improvement trap, well, not even that, the self-improvement whole industry was telling me to work harder. It was telling me that I needed to grind. It was telling me that the struggle I was going through was going to be the reason why I made it. And I understood that. But what really hit me was when I realized that I was making no money. The work I was doing wasn't even really, I wasn't really even doing work at this point. You know, you'd meditate for ages or try to meditate. You would journal, and in your journal, you're literally talking about how shit your day was, or how shit you've been, or that you haven't locked in, or like this stuff. And you stay in this cycle, right? So this trap, now, I don't know if you can see this drawing, but I'm going to explain to you what this is, and I'm going to explain to you why it ties into the trap, and why it's a trap in the first place. Right, cool. So, if you feel like your amount of productivity is related to your worth, I promise you, you will never be able to transcend. You'll never be able to escape this loop of like third dimensional bullshit, basically. So having, you know, I'm not a insane expert. This is just shit that I study and I learn about so that I can actually live the life that I want. You know, I'm not, before I get into this, I'm not like a multi-billionaire. Like I'm living at home with my mom. Like, this is genuinely just so I can help you, because I understand that I've already escaped, right? I've already escaped. There's no fear, or there's no nothing in my mind that says to me I'm going to fail, essentially, because failure is not even really, it's not even real. None of this shit is real, but it all matters. And I'll get into why I'm saying this stuff. But tangent, get back on track. So your self-improvement trap. You probably meditate. I'm not gonna make my writing too neat, but you probably meditate. You probably journal. You probably, what else do people do? You probably read books. You probably watch content. I mean, you're watching content right now. And I want to say, the reason why I make content the way I do is because I understand that it's actually been the most beneficial to me. When I watch videos like this is what helps me more than anything. Like, it's cool watching the vlogs and watching the lifestyle and getting the motivation, but I'm telling you, actually learning like why is different, man. So you probably do all these things. And I'm going to tell you now that you don't need to meditate more. You don't need to journal more. You don't need to read books more. And you don't need to watch more content. Like, you don't need to. What you need to do is understand you. You need to understand you. Because if you cannot even work for 12 hours in a day and you try to, I'm going to tell you now, already you're behind. And the reason why you're behind is because you're definitely not doing anything productive. So you can say like that's literally what I was doing. You know, I was making Canva templates. I was doing all this shit, and I didn't have any reason to be doing it. I just thought like, I'm hustling, I'm working, I'm not having fun, right? I'm not having fun. It's insane because this shit literally made me think that me not having fun was fun. You know, I had no friends, I didn't speak to anyone, And I understand, like, there is a point where you have to, you know, you go through a slight isolation. It's very lonely. It's a very lonely time, right? Self-improvement. But why is that? It's lonely because we make it lonely. It's lonely because the people that are around us in our current reality, they're quite literally just figments of our own creation from the past. Right? So when you were growing up, you know, all of the things that you've learned and all the things you were doing, all the hobbies that you had, maybe it was sports. For me, it was huge. Like, my whole reality, my whole identity was sport. Like, I was just an athlete. So all my friends played ball, basketball. Everyone that I knew was just connected to that sport, which is why as soon as I was like, oh shit, and I woke up and I just lost everyone, because I no longer wanted to go and chill and play ball or do this. And don't get it twisted, I still now can go and play ball, and I've realized this through years. I was literally in this shit for 2 fucking years, bro. So I do not want you to be in this shit either, right? Caveat, let's get back to it, right? So you don't need to meditate, journal, all this shit. I'll tell you why it's beneficial and when to do it, but for now, fuck that shit. Literally. Okay, so this is probably something that you've experienced. It's the loops and troughs of your reality. Now, the reason why we have this is because we have something called your higher self. Again, I don't know if you can see this because it's pretty small. I'm just going to put higher self. And then down here, we have your lower self. So, what are these things? Higher self, low self, you know, I sound like a crazy person. I want you to imagine the two, you know, the devil and an angel figures on the shoulders right now. Really think about this. Have you ever done something that you thought was out of character? Normally those out of character things are one of two states. Either it's you falling victim to your lower self, or you achieving and acting as your higher self. Right? Again, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible, so there might be a bit of waffle around it, but I'm really trying to break down how to simplify it. Right? Cool. So as you can see, your higher self, this is where you feel like you're locked the fuck in. If you feel like you're locked the fuck in, you're operating like your higher self, right? And it doesn't just mean work. Like, I want you, like, you really need to understand that this is not just about working, bro. Like, life is not just about you working. I say my whole life is work, right? My whole life is work. But it's not the fact that I'm sitting behind a computer, or the reason why I'm working is because I'm always crafting and creating the reality that I have. That's why it's work. Right? So if I want to be stronger, I have to go to the gym. That is work, so that I can create that. Think about it like gears, like the cogs in a gear. Like, you're building everything together so that it simultaneously creates something that you want out of it. And that process, that time in between, that is literally just you trusting the process. That's just part of it, because our bodies, our physical body, is confined to time, to like effort, to action. Like, it is. I cannot physically just, well, I mean, you can, like, some people are lazy fuck, but what I'm trying to say is you can't just snap your fingers and then change everything physically, right? This is why we have your mental and your spiritual side, right? Because that's where you can literally instantaneously change. Quite literally. It's just that you need to remember that your eyes literally tell you lies. And you can literally go on YouTube and find like illusion tests or whatever. Like, that literally shows you that your eyes lie to you, right? You know, shout out Nero Knowledge. If you've ever seen one of his videos, go and check him out. He's legit, man. Like, he's legit. But one thing that I learned from watching his videos was our actual visual of our experience is only 0.0035, I'm pretty sure, percent of what is actually here. Like, just think about that. Like, even looking at this door or anything to a minute detail is like, there's atoms inside of atoms, and like it goes way deeper, right? But cool, I don't know. So tangent, crazy neighbors. Anyways, so this literally where you're locked the fuck in. This can be every single thing. It should be every single thing, right? It should be when you go to work. It should be waking up. It should be going to the gym. It should be everything where you just feel like you are on track with everything. Even when you're watching movies, like that's one thing that I personally have kept in my life. I like to watch movies, long form, 2 hour, different type of mind game movies, psychological, like, again, tangent. But the reason why I do it is because I'm fully present in that moment. I'm not thinking about, well, obviously I'm always thinking about work, I'm always doing it, but it's all connected in a way that I can be fully present in the moment, right? I need to understand exactly what's happening in the movie. And it's not just rotting my brain because I'm scrolling, right? So that's my little point. Right here, this is where you experience these depressions and anxieties, right? Your lower self is quite literally like your chimp brain. You know, it's part of your, if I'm remembering correctly, your amygdala. Amygdala? Yeah, I'm going to reference that. But essentially, this is where you just act off just purely off your desires and your emotions and everything. You do not think consciously of what you're doing, right? This is the autopilot setting, right? This is when, like, if you want to eat food, this is why instant gratification is so dangerous right now. Yeah, if you are like hungry and you say to yourself, I'm gonna eat, and you just eat everything or anything, you're gonna stay fat. And the thing is, you stay fat, then what happens is you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, oh my gosh, I'm fat. Then you get deeper into the hole and you're like, you know what, I want to stop seeing people. I can't get girls, I can't do anything. And you end up in this dark state where you don't even want to leave your room. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to do gym. You just want to stay in the loop that you're in. You want to stay in that emotion. You feel like, you need to rest more. You need to do less, right? Do less. Now, in between these, we have your everyday life, right? Like, you don't stay here forever and you don't stay here forever. The same way that, like, the world, the universe, like, we have seasons, right? You have winning seasons, you have losing seasons. You have winter, you have summer. But in between, you just have your everyday life. Like, it doesn't drastically change, right? What you need to do is quite simple. You need to raise your experience. Now, I could say, raise your vibration, raise your frequency, and go into all of this consciousness stuff. But again, I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. I'm really trying to just break it down. I want to go deeper into the things, but for now, I'm just going to try and keep it as simple as possible. So you just need to raise your experience. And how do you do that? Now, I'm going to take this off. The way that you raise your experience is by deciding. It's a decision. If you want more, if you say that you want more, decide to have more. Like, quite literally, just decide to have more, right? I can take this off now as well. Cool. So, it's a decision. This is why you hear the hustle gurus, everything tell you, you're one decision away. You're one decision away. And I don't even think they understand. I mean, yeah, they probably don't. They don't understand why they're saying it to you. But you are literally one decision You're one decision away from the physique. You're one decision away from the money, one decision away from the girl. What else? The car, house. Like, you're one decision away from it all. You know, my room, the place I'm in right now, I can literally show you what it used to be like, and it was terrible. You know, I'd walk in here and I would hate it. There's shit everywhere. I hated just the environment that I was in, right? But what I did was I created an environment where now I actually feel happy to be in here and happy to work, and I can feel like my higher self in this moment. And it's easier because my eyes are seeing a better reality. Right? It starts small. It's all about starting small. It's about starting with what you have. The reason why I have 2 whiteboards is because I just have 2 whiteboards. Right? That's what I have. If I had a massive whiteboard, I would use 1 whiteboard. The reason why I use this camera is because this is the camera I've got. If you have a phone and you want to create content, use that phone. Stop looking for other equipment. This is another thing that I fell into. It was the feeling of lack, which I've spoken about in another video. But that feeling of lack, of needing more things, needing more equipment, needing more, it literally signals that you are not where you need to be. It signals that you are, you're subconsciously saying to yourself, I can't have what I would have in the reality that I want, because I'm not that version of me yet. And it's funny, one of my mentors, I literally had this conversation. It's funny now I'm reflecting on it. I said the exact same thing. I said, well, I can't do this because I'm not there yet. But why? I'm one decision away. All I had to do was decide that I was there. And boom, proof in the pudding, here's the video. It's crazy. And this, I'm saying that to, I'm not trying to boast or anything about my life, because it's really not that important. When you really look at everyone's life on social media and you think to yourself, the cars and the Lambos, yeah, it's cool when people are flying private, but you can literally have that shit too. I know it's going to seem to you like I'm trying to spur on some hustle bullshit, yo, if you work harder, bro. I'm being serious. If you just find yourself, like I said, understanding you can have that shit. Right? But what happens along the way is you realize what you actually want. Right now, you might want a Lambo because you saw that guy on Insta with a Lambo. Right? And again, there's so many little traps and pockets that you can fall into, because I went completely from I want Lambos and mansions and this to I don't want none of this shit, bro. I was like, none of this shit matters. I don't need none of it. And then I was like, I don't even need money. I don't want money. I was completely different ends of the spectrum. Anyways, tangent, let's get back. So, you're one decision away, right? One decision away. And why is that? Because you're one decision away from you becoming. Right now, I want to reference the Bible, but I don't want to butcher it. So, there is a verse in the Bible. It speaks about you must be before you have. Right? Again, I don't want to butcher it. This is why I'm not. But essentially, it's along those lines. And becoming is the decision that you have to make. You need to become a gym goer with abs before you have abs. You need to become a millionaire that has systems and routine and program before you become a millionaire. It's the same thing of, another example I can give you is, for you to fall asleep, you must first act asleep. Right? For you to fall asleep, you must first act as though you are asleep. And that is quite literally what we're discussing here. So, if I take this off quickly. I'm gonna give you guys some action steps, right, to become, because that's really what you're here for. You want to know how, right? So becoming. To become, this is what I've personally used to become who I am now, right? When I was fat, when I was depressed, when I was lonely, the way that I got out of it was quite literally using these steps. So bear with me. Cool. So camera died. Perfect. So let's get back to it. Right. So how? Audit, define, act, and then cook that shit up, bro. Cook that shit up. Bro. So how do you do this? Audit. What I want you to do is quite literally just look at your life and say, what the fuck is going on? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? You need to understand what is going on first, right? So then we audit. Then we define. We go into what it is that we're trying to achieve. What is the outcome? Where do we want to get to that we're like, okay, cool. I'm like this right now, I'm a bum ass nigga, but later down the line, you know, I want to be this person, right? Then you act like that word. You act the way that person would act now. So once you've understood who you are now, the difference, bridging the gap, this action right here, this is quite literally you bridging the gap between where you are and where you want to get to. That bridge. That is your execution difference, right? Now, we have something called the intention gap theory. Yeah, the action intention gap theory. Essentially, it's the gap between your intentions and your actions. The way that we eliminate this shit is by breaking that shit down, right? You break down what it is that you need to do. So the actions that you need to do, you break it down. If it's like, I don't know, if you want to run a marathon, you don't just get up and run, bro. Like, I've done that, and it cooks you for like 3 days, right? You need to break it down, chunk it down. Go into the point where you're like, okay, cool. I'm going to, for example, I'm going to just do 5-minute run. That's it. I'm going to do 10-minute run. I'm going to run for 5K. You know, and you build up to it. Now, you can just test yourself in the beginning and just see where you're at. Again, this can be like part of your audit. So what I do sometimes is I'll just go in the gym, for example, and let's say I want to do squats, like, and I haven't done squat in ages. This is why athletes, this is why when I was playing sports, we always did testing, pre-season testing, everything, like, we always did testing. The reason why is because I was able to then understand where I was at and how my actions could bridge the gap between where I wanted to get to, right? So audit, understand where you're at, define, understand where you want to get to, and then act on it. What's the difference in between those two people? How does the defined version of you, how do they act? And then cook that shit over time. I want you to understand, time is quite literally an incubator. It's literally just the place where you cook up mama's homemade soup. You know, I got that gumbo. Now for the people that actually just, you know, that's an inside joke, but yeah, like, you got to cook that shit up. You have to. If you just act for a day and you don't let it heat up, you don't let it, you know, you don't let it really marinate, bro, like, you're gonna be eating some cold ass reality, bro. Some dark ass shit, right? So that is quite literally what I do. I audit, I define, I act, and then I just let it cook over time. And it sounds very simple, and that's because it is, right? It's supposed to be simple, but it's not easy. I don't want you to think that just doing this, like, it's not easy, but it is very simple. And now you're aware of it, so now you have no excuse, right? Lock in. I hope you could see that as well. Could you see that? I hope you can see that. If you didn't, you can hear my words and you can see it now, right? Cool. Boom.